I have us on, just so you know. I tried to get it to actually start before we needed it.
Vinyl records, 33s and 45s are coming back.
I have a record player in
I saw that. And we had a component stereo system, and the receiver crashed 2 different times, and we just decided we weren't going to keep it going anymore because if we want to play music, we like AES, has that deal. I forget what the vendor is, but it's the biggest, probably. Okay, and it doesn't much matter, they have them. I mean, DirecTV has them too.
Yeah.
And but I have a brother that was 2 years younger than me, and we used to buy albums and 45s together, and then we split them up when we went our separate ways. Well, he died about 2 years ago, and his widow wants to get rid of all these albums, and he kept buying them after. He had like about 300 albums, and so she said, I want to get rid of these. You can take whatever you want. I'd have loved to have taken them all, but I didn't think I should. So I went through them all, and I probably took 100. I got 3 boxes that are as wide as an album that she had.
Oh, okay.
And about that many albums in each one. So there's probably about 100 of them. And Vicki got excited about it initially. She said, hey, we can put it in your office and that'll be cool. And at home, my home office. But she found this thing online that has...
I appreciate it. I understand. I appreciate it, but I am doing my job.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, we can't police
I totally get it.
Anyway, she found this thing online, and it's a thing that's about this tall only, and it's about this wide and about this deep. And they said, make sure first that your turntable fits on top of it, but it gets the signal from the turntable.
Oh, cool.
And it has speakers in it, so we don't have
that's
to worry
cool.
about buying separate speakers.
Yeah.
And it's nice and compact.
Oh,
So-
well, that'll be fun.
I did what old people like me are smart enough to do sometimes. I handed it to my son-in-law,
Yeah.
Tim Brown, and I said, take a look at this and tell me what you think. We can keep looking. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, thanks for the ride.
John, you guys gotta find a way to plug that TV into the mic at home on video.
It's having issues.
Yeah, we just can't hear you. You keep cutting in and out.
There's issues with the whole system. We're gonna be ripping it down and redoing it all. Jack's already talked about completely gutting this thing and starting over.
A hot mess.
Yeah, it's no good. Yeah. A lot of it too is, you couldn't hear me either, because usually I speak pretty loudly. Some
Yeah,
people
if we were on
don't.
the TV, we can't
So you really can't hear it.
When he was on Zoom. Yeah,
you
that's a
couldn't
whole
hear that?
nother.
really. Yeah, it just needs like jacked into the microphone.
I see what you're saying.
So that it records it.
Okay. Gotcha.
You just get bits and pieces.
Gotcha.
Yes, it's all
Kind of like
a work.
I got good news for Teresa and Amber.
We on, Bill?
We are
we are.
on,
We're on.
so I will call this Commissioners meeting back to order. And next topic is Ben has nothing for us.
Right.
Right.
We want to go back into the discussion on the buggy ordinance is my preference, I believe.
I got
We want to fill in the blanks.
a couple quick comments. After hearing everyone, I'd have to agree that multiple plates are the way to go. I am not in favor of discounting plates for various reasons, but I'd like to see a flat rate per plate. And the light, that was the other issue, the proper lighting. I think an amber-colored light that's visible 360 is fine with me. As long as it's visible 360 degrees, setting minimum heights and stuff, I just don't think is practical. There's no standard. I mean, it'd be tough to make a standard for each buggy. So as long as it's visible from 360 degrees, and it could be amber, in my opinion, that's the easiest light to get to, an amber one. That would be my suggestion.
And I want to dive into the light thing a little bit. I talked with Mr. Zaire. He's going to call me. I'm going to go out and meet with them and actually put eyeballs on the way the buggies are lit now, because we may not, if all of the buggies are very visibly lit, then, you know, then I don't know how technical we need to get with that, other than they need to be lit. So I'd like to have an opportunity to actually go out and look at what they're doing now.
Right. And I think
to
a simple
see.
standard would be best.
Yeah.
Like as long as you have at least
Yeah.
one 360-degree visible beacon, to me, that'd be sufficient. Now, if
Yeah.
they want to add extra lighting, I don't have any problem with that.
If they're lit from the front, lit from the back.
I mean, I've seen some with neon under them that looks really cool going down the road. They got their boom box going. They're having a good time. They're drinking a little Jack Daniels. They're having a great day. So, you know, more power to them. So, but I think that is the two keys we really need to hit on, is a standard light that isn't too restrictive. Because they might already comply, like Mike said.
Yeah.
Fee-wise, I'm thinking $250 a plate and no discount for extras. That's what I'm thinking. And if enough people sign up, maybe we can even lower the rate in the future. If not enough people sign up, it gives us we can raise the rate from there. You know, we just have to see
What
what
did
the
you say,
damage is.
$250 per plate, and then what'd you say?
No discount for subsequent plates. In other words, if you're
Flat fee.
yeah, flat fee.
Yeah, it's got to be, that's a simple,
And
what your thoughts, Mike?
I'm not too far off of that thought. Yeah, I'm close to there, I think. I haven't.
Where would you like to see it at, Mike?
Well, I don't think 250 is a horrible place to be. I mean, if you're looking at gas tax, if you drive 10,000 miles a year and you get 20 miles to the gallon, you're paying $250 a year gas tax.
Correct.
So, okay.
Plus your plate fee of
Yeah, and if you have 5 cars, you're paying that on 5 cars if you drive them all 10,000 miles a year.
Yeah, plus your plates and your.
plus an excise tax likely coming with.
Yeah.
Sounds like to me, council's.
Yeah, now, obviously,
That's
we don't get as much of that gas tax revenue back as we'd like to get back, but
Agree with
I
that.
mean, the cost to each driver is that amount. So, I think we're,
Close.
yeah, I think we are.
What would the fine be? Let's dive into that a little bit. What's a harsh enough fine that requires compliance, but not excessive to where we're just ripping someone's head off? I mean, is double what the plate would have cost? Or now you gotta get the plate plus a 100% fine, or?
What's the fine if you get caught without a plate on the car?
Well, they'll tow your car. It's actually a misdemeanor, I believe, isn't it?
I don't know.
I believe it
I have
might
no
be a
idea.
misdemeanor, false and fictitious plates. It's up to the discretion of the officer a lot of times too. But I think your car usually gets towed, which it'll cost you a couple $100 minimum,
The minimum.
because you gotta get out of impound at $30 a day. And then I personally, I think whatever the fee would be times 50% or times 100% would probably discourage people enough to make sure they have a plate on there. If you just make it to where the fee is only what the plate costs, they'll just run until they get caught and then just go get their plate. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would. I'm just saying that would be
Yeah.
a scenario that could happen.
Yeah.
So what do you think on a fee, on a penalty, Mike?
I don't think that's unreasonable, I guess. I mean, if you're violent, a violation's a violation, and you gotta expect that, if you violate an ordinance, there's gonna be
Yeah.
Well, it's not like this isn't
fine.
known. We have made this more known than any county. We've discussed this buggy ordinance more than anyone, so they can't claim, no one can complain ignorance to the issue.
Yeah.
So I think the fee needs to be high enough to,
Well, I agree, and I'm hesitant to do a lot of comparison with Allen or Noble or Steuben or whatever, because
I am too.
at this point, it's not a priority for them.
yeah.
If
Well.
Allen County was having road issues and, you know, Bill Hartman was pulling his hair out down there at the highway department, it would be a priority, and they'd be having a discussion too, so, you know,
Well, it sounds like in LaGrange, they're just behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
The man I talked to up there, Mr. Hostetler, he claims they just don't want to, they don't want to go there for some reason. He doesn't know why. He says they got all this expensive, not near enough money coming in to fix it. It's just like hands off. He says, I don't know, he doesn't understand it. He said the fee should be a lot more.
well, and, I mean,
So-
quite frankly, anybody sitting in these seats, you know, you're
Yeah.
real hesitant to raise taxes or
Right.
fees
Oh,
or
yeah.
anything too, and, you know, you have to give it some serious consideration and make sure you're doing the right thing.
I will say I'm probably closer to the $200 per plate, and with the double of that as a fine.
So you're thinking 200?
Yes.
And then double for a fine?
Yeah.
I could go with that.
So somebody that didn't have a license, I'm just clarifying for,
Cost them $400.
Plus they have to buy a plate.
Well, 200 plus $200 fine, 400 total, right?
yeah, that's what I thought you were saying, yes.
Is that what you're saying, Bill?
Yeah,
2 plus 2.
Yeah.
yeah. Or if they, yeah.
I don't have a problem
Fines
with
double
that.
the plate fee.
So what we're saying then is a single light that's visible 360, that's amber, 360 degrees, $200 per plate, $200 fine on top of that if you're caught without a plate, no discount for multiple plates.
Right. What do you think, Mike?
I'm okay on the plates, I'm just not sure. I think I'm more comfortable with something along the lines of visibly lit front and rear, amber front, red rear. I'd really like to take a look at what they're
Okay.
doing now before we
Okay,
button up
I think that's
the lighting part.
I think that's good due diligence to see what's
Yeah.
out there. I just want to keep it simple enough, though,
Yeah, I
that
know.
if they already have stuff that's compliant,
Yeah, I don't.
if they want to do more, wonderful.
yeah.
We have to set a minimum, though.
Yeah.
But it's got to be multi-directional.
You got to be
One way or the
360.
other. Either way we go about this.
Yeah,
It's got to be
I
multi-directional.
just hate to go too specific, though, and I like what you're saying, Mike, because it's safety. You're thinking safety.
yeah.
But when an Allen County buggy comes visits us, technically, we can't, if we make it broad enough that everyone has a signal, we don't have to worry about, is that a DeKalb vehicle? Because if not, they get a citation because their lighting's wrong. Is it an
Yeah.
Allen? I'd like to see it simple enough.
Yeah, I don't want to complicate it and get
Yeah.
real specific with Federal Highway Administration lighting specs or anything
Yeah,
like that.
right.
But if they're already visibly lit in the front and the rear,
But we still have to set a minimum standard, is what
yeah,
I'm saying.
well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Ben, do you have any comments or suggestions?
No, I sent you guys LaGrange County's specs on the buggy lighting and things. Maybe take a look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did read that.
That was pretty thorough, I
They also
thought.
had a handbook for buggy road use and everything.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting.
That, you know, that would be nice.
I thought that was really a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Something that you could kind of implement the same and already have a policy as far as the lighting and stuff. So it's been a while since I looked through that, but I would maybe encourage the three of you to look through that, maybe adopt something similar. It's working up there. That's one of the biggest Amish
Yeah,
populations around.
yeah.
You know, I'd look at that. And I was surprised the feedback today was a lot better than the last public hearing. It was nice to hear and you know, and I support that. I think we need to have something, and I'm glad you guys are working on it, because we are gonna have road damage.
Well, today was fact-based responses instead of emotion-based responses.
Right.
And that was the key. That's what I wanted to get out, and that's why I didn't want to pass it earlier and then have people upset. The facts are out. We know what it is. I think 200, Bill, I'm glad to see you go to that number, because I think we'll get enough plates to get up close to that 600.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about, you know, plates being flopped around.
Yeah.
I'm good with everything I'm hearing right now.
Okay.
I think Mike, his due
Get the
diligence
light
on the
thing
lights.
sorted out.
I say
and
we
be
nailed
ready
this.
to do this next week.
I think so.
Okay? Next week, we'll do this.
Okay.
You on board?
I'm on board.
We'll get the light.
I have to have a blank for the light if you want to pass it next week, or
Right.
Yeah.
talk about it and pass it and have it effective the first of the year. And
Probably
that-
so.
And that way we could have more time to make sure I got the lighting the way you want to have it. So, you know, you pass the ordinance next week, we come up with something in terms of the where the light goes and all of that stuff, and which we can add, because I'll have it here in Word next week.
And I would like to make it a calendar year fee that's prorated. So, in other words, someone buys a plate in June, you know, it's
Half.
$100 instead of 200.
Yeah.
But calendar year to me always works better.
Yeah, it's staggered.
You don't have to, okay,
expiration
your
dates.
plates are due in June, that person's due in September.
Yeah, no, we don't
Calendar
want to
year-
go there.
Well, if you,
You
yeah.
get a
That's what-
22 sticker or a 23 sticker or a 24 sticker, and you just get it prorated. You come in June, we'll give you a 23 sticker, but you only pay 100.
Yeah.
I mean, that just is fair to me.
Okay,
So
you
you
got that.
take like $16 off a month.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, $16 off a month, you know, just prorate it make it monthly. Obviously,
Okay.
we're not gonna go down to the day, but
No.
Go with it monthly.
yeah, whatever month you come in, that's that times the amount of months remaining to December, and
Okay. I like
if it's
that.
simple, a yearly sticker to stick on the plate, just like the BMV does.
Right.
They just, and that way we can mail them a sticker, like the gentleman, one of the Amish gentlemen asked if we could do this through the mail, and I think there's no reason that we couldn't.
You think, Susan?
No, I mean for subsequent plates. The initial plate, I
Oh,
think they should
initial.
have to come in,
Oh, okay.
get their plate, but I think we could work it out to where we could mail them the
So-
stickers.
I need to think about that a little bit, because I have to decide whether it's all gonna be here or if it's gonna be at the townships, and that they then collect all the fees and have to bring it to us.
Okay.
So, I haven't really put that much thought into that, because we haven't readdressed it yet.
Other thing,
Other counties do the townships. They have somewhat of a problem getting their township trustees to bring the money in on a
right.
good time frame. So I need to think about that a little bit.
Another thing we need to change in the ordinance is to
Dimension.
specify that the money goes to the motor vehicle, or for road repair and not into the general fund. So that
Correct.
money we need to change that in ordinance. Jim, do you know that?
I think
What's
we
that now?
In the
did.
ordinance, we have to change the verbiage with all fees collected goes for repair of highway roads, not,
We want to provide that.
yeah, we don't want it going in the general fund. Because that was brought up by one of our taxpayers that, hey, why don't you have this going into the highway fund, which makes sense.
Right, right.
So that was a good
I
catch
think we,
by,
I thought we updated that.
that was a good catch by one of our taxpayers, so.
That
maybe
might
we
have
did
been in
update
what
that
we
already.
had. That might already be in
It
there.
might be, okay. Yeah, I can't remember.
Kind of.
I'm liking what
If I
I'm,
got it written down, I'm going to check it.
I'm liking what I'm
hearing.
hearing, though. I think this is fair to everyone, and it gives us a good start, get some money in the bank and for future use.
Okay,
But
Okay.
Mike, if you do that, I think we can
Yeah,
vote on it
yeah.
next week.
yeah. That's the plan.
Okay?
Okay, put that to bed for now. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Hey, Mike, if you get your due diligence done before the end of the week, would you email it
Yes, I
to
will.
me? because then we're even closer to having the ingredients put in there to have it effective first of the year, but
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, my.
Okay, you want to dive into these appointments a little bit? We got a little bit of time here.
Sure.
Can we do the Sunny Meadows thing real quick?
Yeah, Sunny Meadows.
I'd make a motion to, that we accept the report from Sunny Meadows, receipt of report from Sunny Meadows.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay. Anything else, Susan? While we're on,
No, but I didn't know if I was thinking that you guys were doing the appointments in an executive session, possibly, to discuss them.
yes,
I think there are, yeah.
we can,
I think we could combine, since it all falls under personnel.
Sure.
You know, we're gonna have some Sunny Meadows interviews to do, I'm sure. We've got these appointments to discuss. You know, we may have some attorney applications to talk about too, so I think we could do that all in one executive
Okay.
session.
let's do that. Question is when?
Well, how about Thanksgiving Day?
It's fine with me. If it gets me out of the house, that's good.
You'll have to do it without me.
That bad, huh?
I'll be gone.
Well, wait till I eat first.
I'm eating turkey. How much is on the schedule on the 28th?
28th?
If we could do it like we did last week, wrap everything up at 10 o'clock and do an executive session at 10:15 on the 28th, that would be good.
Let me check.
And that would be for both the appointments and Sunny Meadows? Of course, that's an appointment too, isn't it? That can be
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
folded in, so you don't need to discuss it, just appointments of department heads, committees, commissions, all that kind of stuff,
Or the,
that you can do.
yeah, or the 21st, if that's better, Susan, either one.
All right, I'm asking my girls out there.
You just have to be in Indianapolis by,
I'd prefer
Right,
probably
4
the
o'clock.
28th.
I was gonna say, the 28th would probably be better with noticing and stuff. The 28th, as of right now, just has Dottie and Ben, so we could do it.
okay, let's do that then.
Will that be executive or normal session?
Executive.
That'll be an executive session,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Those things need to be
10:15 on the 28th, executive session.
10:15, 28th for personnel, interviews and discussion.
For people to know that we're not doing executive sessions other than for what they're intended for.
I absolutely agree,
Yeah.
yes.
is there any openings on the plan commission?
Plan commission, no. We filled that last one.
For your appointments,
Yes. I was thinking there was one.
No, I don't think so.
there, unless I don't have it down, I show that, Sarah Delbeck's is done this year. The citizen representative. I have Suzanne Davis in place of Taylor.
Taylor,
We did that.
yeah.
But yeah, Sarah's is up this year.
That's what
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure we've got some expiration.
I had emailed, like Chris on that
Yeah.
to see if he had any recommendations for you guys, things like that.
Okay,
My guess is he'll want to reappoint Sarah. She's been a very valuable contributor to the Plan Commission.
Okay. Anything else on the miscellaneous?
Yeah, well, everybody got the resume for the county attorney. I think we can include that discussion in the executive session.
I have that down.
If you're going to
Yeah.
advertise that any further or solicit any other resumes, I think
Right.
now's the time to do that. But
Has Dottie put out a trailer on that for resumes?
No, I don't believe she has. We just kind of discussed what we were gonna do and we didn't really push it.
Yeah.
We probably ought to make a notice out there for anyone that's interested to submit. Zach gave us a very professional letter that laid out, and I think that if people would do the same thing, if others would be interested, that would be nice to get a few,
yeah,
you know,
although
so.
we can certainly have Dottie do that or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
I
think we
just don't think we're gonna have people knocking down the door but
No.
But I think having Dottie advertise that would be
Yeah,
appropriate.
yeah. I'll get a hold of Dottie.
Okay, I did have a particular person recommend a Denny Sutton.
What's that?
Denny Sutton. I had a person recommend Denny Sutton. You tell us about Denny, or maybe we can't
Danny
go
would be
there
great if he'd do it, but I don't know if he'd be interested in doing it.
in doing it. Okay.
I just don't think that that's gonna be something that people are gonna beat a path to the door to do. You know, it's specialized and takes a certain temperament.
I agree. But we still need to put it out there.
Yeah, I agree with that,
Right.
definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Jim?
No.
Susan?
No.
Those are all no's for miscellaneous, so you can go to the next agenda
Miscellaneous.
item, I assume.
Yes.
Yes.
We are getting close to 10:45. Andrew Provines, you want to step up and sign in and give us,
Blue means good to go, right? That's good.
that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just making sure, because all my audio at the county council got lost.
And
Speak right into it too. One thing I'll notice, a lot of people stand off to put it in the middle
Like a
if
rock
you need to
star?
or whatever.
Pick it up and everything?
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Just don't do a mic
I
drop when
made
you're done.
comment on the record this morning that there are multiple problems that we did not purposely.
Yep.
Turn your speaker off.
Well, and you guys said that it needs rework, so. Andrew Provines, 3920 County Road 75, Butler, Indiana. You guys probably all know what I'm here to talk about, don't you? It's
No,
gonna be fun.
clue us in, would you?
Right. Let's talk about abatements, solar, finance, everything. So I'm obviously gonna say some things I've already said before, check on them each week, mostly because, you know, our solar club raises concerns and I bring them here. We're thinking about getting tattoos,
Cool.
solar buddies, but we're gonna put it on our butt for reasons, you know.
Fit in with the Teletubbies. That'd be great.
Right. All right. So I want to check on the ordinance, where we're at. I asked last week, but I'm just, you know, like we were talking about some of the shoring up the language. One of the concerns that was brought to me, and by a lot of people, actually, it's like, and something that has been said to me throughout a lot of this is, if it's not in the ordinance, it doesn't exist. So I go to the plan commission, you know, meeting and I hear fully, or the vegetative barrier will be fully screened day one. And I hear from you guys that it will be screened day one. But in the ordinance, it doesn't say fully screened day one. And I know that you've said that it will be in here, but from what the concerns are, if it's not in the ordinance, it doesn't really exist.
Well, but Andrew, you're just misinformed with that particular thing. that all of that landscaping has to pass muster with the Plan Commission. So if the landscaping plan comes in and it doesn't do what we say it's going to do, it doesn't get approved. I mean, plain and simple.
Or what you're saying is if they don't comply with the landscaping.
Right,
When they get approval and don't do it, right?
Then they get-
So you folks
then
could
they
say,
get a- Then they get a stop work order.
right, but you
until it's
guys
correct.
would have to do that.
Yes.
You guys might not always be here. And more solar may go in. So I want to make sure that that day one is there. Just like in the county council meeting, I asked about the $100 million, basically allows you to get more than a 10-year abatement. It makes you eligible. And the county council said, we as a council have decided that we don't really want to give more than a 10-year abatement. But that doesn't mean that they're not eligible. And that doesn't mean as county council members rotate in and out, different people are elected, that the new group couldn't say, hey, let's give them more than 10 years. So if, like I said, this is not coming from my group and this is not coming from me. It's coming from people I've talked to around here that have said, if it's not in the ordinance, it does not exist.
Now, we don't decide, the Plan Commission is the one who decides whether they get a permit or not, or whether they get a stop work order. They don't get an occupancy permit if they go out there and the landscaping doesn't meet what the requirements of the permits are, or what the requirements of the development plan are. They don't get to turn on the juice.
But what I'm saying is the ordinance, the requirements are not day one.
Well, if it's, what's the difference between saying day one and making it a requirement to comply? In other words, when you get your motor vehicle license, they don't say, okay, on day one, you have to have the plate on your car. They say the plate must be on the car or you get fined.
The difference is they can put in a vegetative screening that it doesn't have to be. At some point in its life, this will fully screen this. If we put in day one, like has been said here, day one, done. It's a tiny bit of verbiage that protects the residents of this county.
What does the verbiage say for the screening right now?
It says that it has to be a
Certain height or anything?
It says it has to completely screen the panels from the non-participating property owner's view 12 months of the year.
But it doesn't say when. And what they're repping are trees like this. They've shown me pictures of trees this big.
Well,
That's
and I-
not fully screened, but it may be in 30 years. So my question is, how do I get a right into the abatement? Who's going to be my champion? Who's going to just help us? We're not asking for big changes. We're not saying, put them 1,500 foot back. At this point, we just want some protection. So saying that it needs to be fully screened day one, boom, you guys said it yourselves, so let's put it in the ordinance and make it required.
Andrew,
Yeah.
if a tree is this tall, how big are the panels? I would think that would hide the
Okay,
panels.
I'll tell you where I'm at on this. I asked the Plan Commission if it would be screened day one. They're like, yeah, it has to be fully screened day one. I said, okay, what's fully screened mean? Fully screened. I said, I have a house, and it's actually stepped up on a hill a little bit. And I have a second-story balcony that overlooks these beautiful fields right now. And I said, what does fully screened mean? I said, are you going to screen this from my second-story balcony? And the answer was fully screened. But is that in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years?
That means before they are issued a permit, their landscaping has to meet that standard to fully screen.
But that's according to you. That's not in the requirements. It's not in the ordinance. And like I've been told, if it's not in the ordinance, it doesn't exist. That's what I'm asking.
The one point
Is this legally binding? You guys saying it right here.
the one point you made,
It's in the ordinance, Andrew.
Day one is not in the ordinance.
one thing you made a point of, which I will agree with, is if you're from your second story, well, you could build a 4-story building, and I think the ordinance ought to read a certain height.
I would
Period.
agree. I would agree with that.
But
Yeah.
because your second story doesn't matter to me. You could build a third
Right.
story.
But
You
I'm
could
saying
say
I was
have an
told-
observation tower.
I was told that. So is that legally binding?
It's a good point. I think that point is actually valid because he
Yeah.
could argue, hey, you're not fully screened. I'm looking out my second story and I
Right.
don't see it. So I think you do a height and you're done. 10 foot, 12 foot, I don't care. Saying it's fully screened may not be proper term.
This is going to be a contentious subject because of topography of the land.
Right.
Yep.
If the house is on a hill, your property line is in a ravine, and the solar is across there on another hill, that's going to take a full-grown tree. They're not going to go out there and plant
Or a
full-grown trees.
combination of a berm and a tree.
Berm and a tree.
Yeah.
We're talking,
And Andrew, I told you this last week, I'm trying to work on some things to clean up some of these things. I'm not gonna tell you, sitting here today, what it is or what what it's gonna be. There's some room to work with some of these things, but you gotta give the system some time to work through, I don't wanna go in and sponsor a text amendment that isn't well thought out, and you end up having to change it again.
Let me ask the dumb question. Wouldn't it be better instead of fully screened to say a certain height from the road level? In other words, the road is in my opinion, the baseline we're measuring from. Because you can put a house way up here and say, that's not fully screened, I'm looking right at it.
well, that's my point.
So my point is, if you follow the road that surrounds the property and say it must be 20 foot above the road or 15 or whatever, that pretty much, whether it's mounded or trees.
But we're not screening the road.
No, but I'm just saying,
okay.
but that's the point of view that everyone sees, is the road. This property owner that sets high has a totally different view than this property owner that sets low, but everyone can agree that the road is a fixed point that can be measured from.
But the intent of that, when I added that to the UDO, my intent was, if you're a non-participating property owner, and you walk out and sit on your back porch, you see landscaped trees and not solar panels.
Okay.
So,
And I think that's good. I just want to shore it up so that we know that that's how it's actually going to play out. And if it's not day one, it's not day one. If it's 2 months down the road, 3 months, that's fine too. I just want to make sure that it's not 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now that we can expect that. That's my concern is, 100% for the residents. If you're going to try to alleviate some of the pain of this change that is being proposed, let's protect the residents while we do it and make sure that they do step out on their back porch and get to see trees, So it's that protection I'm looking for.
and that's always been my intent, and that, from my perspective, having been involved in the ordinance, that's what it says already. I can tell you that Chris Gomer is not going to issue a permit if the landscaping doesn't meet that requirement.
But Chris Gomer may not always be the person in charge. That's the problem. That's my concern. And there is no cap on acreage, so we could have another solar company come in 10 years from now and say, hey, I also want to do more, or I want to do my own, or at any point in time. And if the people that everybody hears like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, but we cannot ensure that they're going to be around forever. Let's be perfectly honest. We're looking at 30 to 50 years. Most of us are not going to be around at that point.
I will.
Well, you're better than me then, because I probably won't. My family dies young.
I'm kidding with you.
That's my risky lifestyle.
My biggest point out of everything he said is the term fully screened. I think that's subjective in nature, just to even talk about, because if you don't have a baseline of what the height should be compared to something that's never going to change, like a road, how do you...
The house is never going to be on the same topography as the road.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you can't say fully screened because one house may be looking right at it from a hill, another house that's in a valley won't see it. I think you have to do a baseline instead and say, hey, we're going to screen a certain amount above the road height.
How's that going to protect the house that's back up the road,
It
up the
doesn't.
hill?
Neither will your fully screened because you can never comply with it. You'd have to build, maybe in some areas, 50 or 75-foot tall trees in order to
Or
obscure
like
it.
berm with trees on top, like Mike said.
Yeah.
But
That's
are you
only
going to
gonna get
require
to it.
that?
Well,
Are you going to go to each house and
No,
say?
I think it's got to be something that is accommodating to the non-participating property owner, like from the property line, from the height of the property line at the adjoining, at the adjacent, the property line adjacent to the solar field that's your measuring point or something
That's what I'm saying, something
like that.
fixed. Yeah, you gotta come up with a fixed
Yeah,
amount. You
I'm
can't
not-
just say,
I don't think the road is the right,
okay, whatever. I'm just saying you
Yeah,
gotta use a
yeah.
fixed basis,
Yeah.
but you can't just say, we will fully screen you and guarantee that to a property owner, because if they sit way up on a hill and they're up on their second story, there's no way you can guarantee that blockage.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the
You
problem.
can't guarantee
well,
it.
and that's what I'm working on, is
Yeah,
trying to
okay.
find the right
I think it's a valid point.
key.
And it needs to go through the plan commission first,
Well, yeah, it does.
because otherwise they're saying, hey, you're stealing our thunder here, well, you're mandating certain
Well,
things.
But we're the ones that are gonna prove it, so.
You get your views before
way-
the plan commission.
The way that works, Jim, is either a plan commission member or one of the commissioners has to sponsor a text
Right.
amendment to the plan commission.
Right,
And that's
I
what
understand
that's what
that.
That's what I'm working
And
on.
that, I'm on the same page as you, I'm just saying.
Yeah, well,
Once that point is reached,
The
then
plan
the plan
commission-
commission acts, and then you
then it
respond to
comes
the plan
back here.
commission.
Yep, exactly.
So
That's-
some of
that's the
this
process.
might be offensive to some of the plan commission members who make the initial
Yeah,
recommendation.
Well, I still say if you do not set a baseline reference of what fully screened is, you're gonna have problems down the road because someone will say, I can see it and I want it changed. Whereas if you say, okay, it's a certain amount of foot from the property line elevation, from the property line, then I can say, okay,
On that left side of line.
yes,
yeah.
Line of
yes,
sight.
here's your property line, it's this elevation, trees must be 20 foot higher than that or whatever, or obscurement, it has to be a certain foot higher.
It had to be 20 because the panels can be as high as 18.
18.
Yeah.
So that screen's got to be 20 foot high.
I personally like the idea of berming like SDI did, in
With
my
that,
opinion.
in that case, and I actually had a question based on the berming thing, because I do too. I like the berm idea to, also help as well. But would that go on participating or non-participating property? Because,
The
I
berm
mean,
itself,
It can't.
yeah, because in my scenario,
Well, it can't go on your property.
right, because there's a lane, I can't
yeah,
block that
it
for
had to go
people.
on the participating property.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it'd have
And
to.
my thought was, as I've been playing with this, is, I think you've got to permit some berming, otherwise, I mean, if you're bringing in 20-foot trees. the
You're not going to
expense-
get there,
Right.
not instant.
But I'd like to see the berm be only a percentage
Sure.
of that total height. I don't want to.
No, I agree.
No,
with
yeah, you don't want a
15-foot
berm
berm
that's
and a
massive.
5-foot tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the other part of that, the other,
Because they got to move a lot of dirt.
Right, yeah.
I agree with that,
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
maybe a berm at 7 foot and then another
Yeah.
13 foot of trees or whatever. But
percentage-wise.
enough just to say, okay, this is segregated. Like SDI, when I drive by it, I'm like, I don't see it from the road. You do
Right.
not see SDI from the road until you almost get to SDI.
right.
And to me, that's kind of nice. If I'm a landowner across the street, I'm looking at a hill instead of a,
Right.
I agree with that, definitely. Another, just as an example, another bit of that would be, I know people have put in, if it's obviously, if I go out and poison a tree, then that should not be for them to replace. But some places have, hey, if this tree dies naturally, for whatever reason, they'll come back and replace it. Things like that. So you're not stuck with a dead tree that's never going to grow.
Right.
So some of that kind of stuff I'd like to see shored up in the ordinance. So I'm assuming Mike is my champion here, but the question I have also is, what if they put in their plans before this, that kind of thing? Like, I want to get this going as quick as I can. And I know you're doing your research, but how do we get this going quicker? And can I meet, Mike, can we meet? Can we talk about it? Can we figure out the best way to get this stuff moving forward?
It's going to move at the pace it moves at. When I am happy with the language that I'm going to propose, then it'll move.
Okay, I'm going to email you the pieces that I think could use, just so you have it, is here, this could use a little bit of short up language, verbiage, whatever. So try to move it along a little quicker.
But that's fine. I would be happy to
Yeah.
hear what you've got. I have had very little follow through from your group about sending me stuff that they said they'd send me. So
I didn't know other people were saying they'd send you stuff. What have you not gotten?
somebody was going to send me an ordinance that had property value guarantees in it, and I don't know,
Oh.
two or three other things.
That is Kosciuszko County, by the way. Okay, I'll make a note.
So I've got a meeting with a couple of the Kosciuszko commissioners coming up anyway, so That's on my list of things to talk to him about.
All right, next topic.
We've got about 2
You
minutes.
got 2 minutes, man.
Ooh, ouch. Well, we had a lot of fun, didn't we? Okay, two points real quick. One is during the county council meeting, they were talking, Rick Ring was talking about how we don't drop below 30% for personal property taxes.
Currently, yeah.
Business person.
Currently, my thought here is, it's been stated that it is like one of the first things on Holcomb's list is to either reduce that or completely get rid of it. So when we say we're always going to have a personal property tax amount never below 30% that we can tax on, it is one of the things going through right now that is being pushed very hard. Let's get rid of this depreciation floor and let them take it to zero. I mean, that's being pushed hard. I just want to point it out.
It's not going to pass. Certainly not going to pass this session. It's not going to pass at all unless there is a replacement revenue stream. It's just not going to happen.
It is being pushed hard, though. That's the point I'm making.
Realize that it's been being pushed
So
hard.
it could go away.
Anything's possible.
It's not going to go away unless there's a replacement revenue stream. I can guarantee you that it's not. It'll just
Personal property tax is 30% of our budget.
33%,
Yeah.
32%.
Yeah, it's a big, so Mike is correct in stating that until a revenue stream comes, they will not replace it. It'd be
We've,
political suicide for them because the counties all be broke and then they'd be, yeah.
But
But
they're
it could
working-
happen.
But they're working on it.
The mayors
And if
and-
it's not get rid of it altogether, they're still working on lowering it.
Well,
So-
the regional chamber would like to eliminate that 30% floor on the personal property tax assessments. It's the same situation though. Unless there's a replacement revenue stream, it's just, it would be political suicide for them to try to push that through.
You say it's not going to be immediate. It'll take a while to find a replacement revenue
Well,
stream.
And that's not a priority of the new Ways and Means chairman. It was in the previous,
But you realize by the time we hit this, we're going to be like 7 years in. So that does give them time to work on getting rid of that 30% because we're not going to get there for 7 years. So if they wanted to get rid of this in the next 7 years, those last 3 years could be nothing. We could be getting nothing on that. I'm just throwing it out there because you say it'll take a while to find a replacement stream, but we've got a while before we would ever need to worry about that 30% floor. I'm just saying
Well, point.
it's, something to think about.
Okay.
I know I'm out of time. Thank you guys. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
If you want to stick around for a little bit, we'll go through this next one and maybe we can continue.
I'd love to.
Have a seat. And,
Thank you.
okay.
We'll give you another 30 seconds.
Tiffany, are you up for Brian? We'll get you up and get you out, get you back to work, get you out of our hair.
How you guys doing today?
Good.
What you got?
Well, so we have a part-time employee that wants to come back full-time. He has never left employment, and he will be with us for almost 10 years. So we wanted to come and try to negotiate some PTO time for him, since he's been gone for 4.5 years.
you lost me.
He
So-
hasn't been, he hasn't been
Part-time.
gone. He has
Been
went to full,
part-time
went
and
to,
not accumulating
right,
any
correct,
PTO.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, now I got you.
Yeah. So basically, just what we would like is if he could have the 9 years of service, since he technically has been employed with the county for nearly 10, well, for 9.
He's been working how many hours?
He
On
puts in,
his part-time?
he works at least 24 hours a month.
24 hours a month.
Mm-hmm.
A month.
I'd have a hard time with that. I think you start making exceptions on granting PTO.
Yeah, that's putting.
And I know how hard it is to get employees, don't get
It
me
is
wrong.
very hard.
But trust me, in the private sector, that isn't even talked about. Because the other employees would be like, oh yeah, well, I want it too. You know what I'm saying? I think it's hard to, full-time people get that benefit because they're full-time, and to say, okay, to get this guy back, we now have to give him everything that he's really didn't earn, that's a slap in the face, I think, to your other full-time people.
Well, he's not asking for it. We're
Oh, I know-
asking
I
for
know.
it for him.
No, I'm not saying he is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think that would cause other problems with your employees eventually.
I'd be open to some discussion on giving him something based on actually the number of hours he's worked. But, you know, I agree with Todd. I think trying to do a full
Yeah.
PTO replacement as if he'd worked full-time all this.
Right.
Can't do that. I wouldn't be for that. No. Something maybe on a scale.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have to be careful with that because there's been multiple requests.
Yep, and it will be
For
flooded with
part-time,
them.
and one of them was in my office, I know.
Yep.
And my part-time employee worked full-time to cover as much as they could because we had his hours less so that the average of his hours did not go over part-time. And then when he went full-time, he was not allowed to count any of that time.
Here's my opinion on this. You
So
either
you're
stick,
gonna have a lot coming back at you.
we either start paying people to what that individual person is worth, and we individually assess every person every year, or we do the blanket raises and the blanket policy. If you try to do a hybrid, you're gonna cause so much dissension. And Mike's idea is fair, don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah,
But it's gonna cause so many problems, because
That's
like your person's gonna say, wait a minute, I worked full-time even though I was part-time, and I didn't get my PTO.
Right.
And I just think it's opening a can of worms.
You can also
Well-
run into wage and hour problems.
Yeah,
If you
and I
start
think we-
rewarding people that are part-time, well, why doesn't everybody get it?
There is that.
We just about have to amend the handbook, actually,
Yeah.
possibly.
Well, could we negotiate something else for him? Since, I mean, I know you guys did that with Ben and his brand new employee that hadn't worked for the county at all. He negotiated part-time for him.
Say that again?
Ben with the highway.
What did we do?
You guys negotiated part-time or PTO time for his new deputy director, or his newest second.
That was
I don't
previous
remember that.
Administration.
I don't remember that.
That was
That was
previous.
prior.
Just say I didn't do it.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been for that.
that was previous.
I believe that was prior, and I think it was prior to the current handbook.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
Yeah.
No.
And I get your point, why you'd want to do this, and you're doing whatever you can to try to make your department better. I just think this opens up a can of worms to where we'll have weekly requests, and then maybe even a lawsuit out of it before it's over with.
You know, I think if you're looking at some kind of an alternative, maybe if you come back with something specific, you know, between you and Brian, put your heads together, maybe we can have a discussion about it. But, you know,
Why does this person want to return full-time?
Just his life changed. He wanted to be a police officer, so he left, and he was a police officer for 4.5 years. And he's recently gotten married, and he's got 3 kids, and
Okay.
I mean, just how law enforcement is these days.
Sure.
So, and he's very good at his job, both of them. So he's a huge asset to have back. We're really excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
You know, like Mike says, go through it again. If there's something else we can maybe agree on.
Okay.
yeah, I think, yeah, we have to be a little cautious
Yeah.
about
Understandable.
setting a precedent that could come back, and
Right.
That's the only thing I worry about.
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
think,
we'll do some more talking, and we'll
Cool.
come back to you guys.
I would
Okay.
think being able to work with you full-time would be
Payment enough.
benefit enough,
Right?
you know?
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Tiffany. Okay, Andrew, you got 7 minutes.
Do I need to go through the whole thing again?
No.
No?
Okay. I actually love coming into these and listening to the other things that are going on, just because, to my point earlier, something the previous administration did that you guys don't agree with. So the next administration may not agree with what's been done in this one.
Yeah.
But I guess that's always a risk. It is. So, talk about electricity bills. So I brought it up briefly last time. I think it was right at the end of when we were talking. So from what I can tell is that electricity for the county as a whole might go up. And where I get that is there's a number of articles out there, actually a ton of articles out there. They're like, wholesale price of solar panels, et cetera, going down. Why does the cost keep going up? And it's like everywhere. It's, this makes no sense. Here's articles, and they're all titled very similar. Wholesale price goes down. The cost of electricity for residents are going up. And a lot of these are utility scale solar. Some of them are just in general where someone's put them on their roof, that kind of thing. So going through a lot of articles, basically where they explain your bills, your electricity bills. This is one in particular, and I got to read it because I'm not good with like exact quotes here, but many utilities are mandated by state public service commissions to support. Those programs such as energy efficiency and renewables are not always aligned with maximizing the profits for the utility companies. So regulators compensate utilities by charging the end users. Mm-hmm. And that's strewn through a number of different articles in different places where you can go research, hey, what's on my bill? This is called this. What does that really mean? So as everyone says, it's not actually the price of producing the energy. That's fairly consistent. The price comes in the fact that renewables are intermittent at best. So if the sun doesn't shine, if you got snow on your panels, if the wind decides not to blow, and it's actually funny because there was a Simpsons episode that said the Simpsons are now living intermittently because they had gone off grid. So whenever the wind would stop blowing, they had to stop living. So it comes in the inconsistency of those power generating, and basically other, coal or what have you, have to ramp up. They have to ramp down. They have to ramp up. They have to ramp down. It's one of those things. It's when it's, you always get this like image as someone says, well, the solar is going to sell to large corporations, things like that. They put energy on the grid, and I put this much energy. We're going to sell that to, this company. It's not like we're sending it in a tunnel to that company. There's only so much that can go on the grid. So you have new infrastructure, you have these big lines, and once you put that energy on the grid, you might have to ramp down something because there's too much, or you might have to ramp something up at night, or if the wind's not blowing. So everyone says that extra cost comes in the form of inconsistencies where they're ramping up, ramping down, or transmission costs. So as we are ramping up and down because our grid is, has a lot, has little, has a lot, has little, the cost is offset to the end user. So in actuality, our electricity bills could go up in this county.
I think anytime
That's just,
well, there's a lot of facets to what you're talking about, but anytime the federal government comes out with a program that's supposed to make things better, it always makes it worse. The fact of the matter is AEP, you name it, whoever the power generators are, Edison on the East Coast, doesn't matter. They have to supply a certain capacity. They have to be able to provide it. So if a renewable comes in and they provide a whole bunch of electricity one day, that's less that the power producer has to produce. They either have to ground that energy or not run the generators, one of the two, I assume. So they still got to have costs. So the rates have to go up. That's all there is to it. There is no more efficient energy than a coal-fired power plant, period, or a nuclear plant if the gloves were taken off, or natural gas. But here's the problem, and here's what I will, now this is bigger than us, but we can stand against this, we at the local level. This renewable idea I have no problem with. I think solar is a wonderful thing, long-term. I think it's gonna have, Bill even has some on his house. Bill will be the first to tell you when the clouds come, it produces exponentially less electricity. So the power company has to step up and fill those shoes. They still have to have that equipment. They still have to have the personnel. They still have to have the transmissions. Now, they do get compensated from what the solar companies put into their grid. I'm not going to argue that. A good example is President's Day 2 years ago. Texas gets an ice storm. Their whole state loses power. Virtually the whole state lost power. Our gas bill for one weekend for this county was $50,000. Because of renewables not working. Fossil fuels, which they aren't, God put the oil in the ground. I don't want to hear that term again, fossil fuel, but will always be needed. The price just goes up the less we use it because it's still going to be the demand for it. Trucks are always going to run on diesel. Trains are going to run on it. Ships are going to run on it. Jets will never run on electricity. It's physically impossible. It's just going to cost us all more. Now, if you want to put renewables on your house, go for it. It's your money. With Mike, though, I agree with him. If it's a legitimate business, they should be able to do what they should or want to do. The farmers should be able to lease their land out. I have a problem with the abatement end because, again, it just adds more cost, in my opinion, to your electricity. Forcing this issue costs us all more in electricity. But that's where my argument ends. Your view, we've discussed this. Your view ends at your property line, in my opinion, all that. If they're legitimate business, I think they should exist. But I do have a problem with it starting at the federal level. People like AOC, which I have zero respect for, pushing this initiative. It's not good for us.
I completely agree with that. In my opinion, and from what I've heard here and from what I've done research, our electricity will go up. That's the point I'm making.
Speculative, but I would think
Maybe,
so.
Yeah.
maybe it will, maybe it won't. But whether we have solar in DeKalb County or not won't have anything to do with that. Nobody can just arbitrarily raise your electric rates because of any, electric rates, electric tariffs are set by the IURC. And it is a monumental 18 to 24 month process to even get a hearing in front of the IURC with a rate case. We went through that with the city of Auburn. It cost us $750,000 to do the rate study and 24 months to get in front of the IURC, and they denied the rate increase.
Did they?
So, it's just not a matter, it's not market driven where they say, oh, okay, well, it's costing us this, so we're going to bump your electric rates. It's much, much more complicated than that. So,
Why do you consider 24 months to be monumental? We have this for the next 30 to 50 years.
well, I'm just saying it's not.
I'm just saying, you keep talking about these timeframes that are so minuscule compared to this being in our county.
What I'm saying is you're talking about apples and oranges and things that just aren't realistic to be part of the consideration. The electric rates, if electric rates go up, they're going to go up whether we have solar in DeKalb County or whether it's all over in Noble County or Steuben or anywhere else.
We're just adding to it, though. We're just adding to the problem.
But the point is, we are not here to decide whether or to have solar in DeKalb County or not. We have already passed an ordinance that allows solar to come to DeKalb County.
Correct.
They are a legitimate business, whatever definition of legitimate you want to decide on. And we are going to treat them the way we would any other developer coming to DeKalb County. They're going to abide by the same regulations, the same ordinances, and everything else. So all of this stuff about what solar does or doesn't do is irrelevant to this discussion.
It's not, though, because this is streamed. So people that aren't able to get involved or don't have the time to get involved or are working every day and can't make these things, this is relevant to everyone. Period. Because it's a county. It's relevant to every resident here. So all these things I bring up here, I don't just bring them up for you guys. I don't just bring them up for me. I bring them up for the county as a whole so that we can get our leadership, their opinions, what they see as possibilities or issues. I bring that up for everybody in the county.
I have to say, we're going to pay now, we're going to pay later on these electric bills. If the supplements, we're either going to pay increased electric costs or we're going to pay increased taxes. Because the tax money, these companies cannot survive without the tax breaks. So we're going to either pay more in electricity or more in taxes. Whichever way they decide to go with this, if they stop subsidizing these renewables, the electric rates have to go up.
Yeah.
The only way they're not going to go up is if we continue or even increase the subsidies.
Well,
And so we're going to pay.
Good.
That's only factual to a point because
No, it's simple, it's simple
the
math.
federal
It's simple
legislation-
math, it's reality.
The federal legislation is what requires the public utility companies, AEP, I&M, or whatever, that buy this solar power off the grid are required by federal legislation to pay what they pay for wholesale power anywhere else. They can't pay more, can't pay less. They have to pay what they're paying for wholesale power. That's part of the federal legislation.
So you're saying they pay the same for all power?
Well, Mike is correct, but what it doesn't take into consideration is what they can actually generate the power for if the gloves were off.
Right.
One thing that's happening to AEP and others, and they're taking advantage like anyone else, AEP is going to, the federal government comes and says, hey, because AEP is going to invest in solar, Florida Power and Light invests in solar, they all do. And one of the reasons they do is the government says, okay, you made $1 billion this year. If you buy $1 billion worth of solar, you can write that all off accelerated depreciation. It's a no-brainer for them. Now, is that better for the taxpayer? No, because the taxpayers would have got 20%, 30% income off that corporate tax, and they would have paid the tax. It would have went into the kitty. Instead, they invested in my opinion, an inefficient energy source to appease the wackos in D.C. Again, I'm pro-solar. I see me having it someday. And I'm not against them coming to town, but for different reasons than you. And you and I have discussed this. But long story short, I just think it's ridiculous that we would give a break to someone that's competing in an industry that can produce power cheaper than they can.
Just so you know, we're on the same page. I agree with the economics.
Yeah, no.
I just have other ones too.
Yeah.
10 seconds, I just want to say the last thing. I just want to ask one last question real quick. My last question is something I said at the county council meeting was, I asked whether an economic study, feasibility study, how this would really affect our county in the long run. I asked if any of that's been done, because I hear in these different meetings, I hear people, okay, we're going to get a contractor for this, or we're going to get a contractor for this, someone to help us plan this, or someone to help us with this. And the answer was no. We don't have any of this information. We've done nothing along these lines of economic feasibility for the county, which that's a pretty standard thing. Is this concerning for anyone but myself? Like, is it concerning that we don't really have a study that helps us understand how this will affect our county in general?
You know what I'll tell you about studies? You can make them say whatever you want.
I'm aware you can.
And pro or against, the airport supposedly here in Auburn, DeKalb, is going to bring us $100 million in economic activity.
But we should have something
We didn't
with
do an
real
economic-
numbers, because numbers.
We didn't do an economic development study or economic
your point.
impact study when SDI came or when anybody else came. I mean, come on, Andrew.
SDI takes up tiny amounts of space in comparison to this. I'm asking why we don't know these things, why we haven't put some real numbers
The
down.
problem is, like I said, though, the study might go totally against what you get the most money's going to win on the study.
Yes.
They're going to dig and say, okay, we're going to provide this, this, and this, and then the people against aren't going to shell up the money to come up with a study that is going to be credible.
So we're
That's
saying
all.
that the behemoth with all the money backing them and all the federal tax dollars is going to beat us
They'll never
every
beat
time.
the study.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
The studies, it's like the old joke, 76% of all statistics are made up. You know, it's the same thing with studies. I read studies and I just laugh at most of them. I know who wrote it. It's not too hard to figure out.
Yep.
And I'm not going either way. I'm not taking
and just
solar
because
or
and just because the
county
solar
at same.
companies could come up with a economic feasibility for us,
Of course they would.
we're not going to back down. I mean, we're going to keep getting the research, the information, the numbers ourselves. We'll
But
come
we're just
back
going
with
to beat
numbers.
each other up over that data and none of it's going to be verifiable because it's all speculative.
True.
It's all speculative.
True.
But some numbers aren't speculative. We lose this much in our local
Agree with that.
economy. You know, our, let's say diesel costs for 6,000 acres, those we can come up with. We're going to lose that much to local businesses. Selling seed.
Seed, fertilizer.
Yeah, we can come up with numbers on all those things.
Tractor repair.
They'd be part of an economic feasibility study. So we'll keep going.
Do one.
I appreciate it. I'm working on it. Man.
Well, you know, and I still submit that if we take less than 3% of the tillable land out, we can't affect the farm economy by more than 3%. You know,
Last time it was like 4 point something.
there was 4 points, I've got the numbers. No, it's not.
That's all right. I appreciate your guys' time as always. I thank you.
No problem, Mr.
Thank you,
Provost.
Andrew.
Have a good
You
day.
guys want that tattoo design, you let me
Yes.
know.
I would. I want to Teletubby.
You're right. 6,000
Winky.
acres is about 4-point-some% of the tillable land in DeKalb County. Yeah.
We do know that by 2050, the estimate is 70% more food production, right? To keep up with population.
No,
I'm just saying.
We're just all eating less.
Well, our yields are going down in general. So let's take up millions of acres for solar instead of making food. We'll
Even
get there.
worse, let's convert our corn into ethanol, which is horrible for your engine.
Which is going away slowly.
And
I'm
is
glad to
polluting
see
the
that.
atmosphere more
Yeah.
than MTBE.
That's
or
another,
whatever it
that's
was.
another
And it's
program that was a.
Eating up all of my
Another federal
components.
program that's bull, you know what.
Yeah,
Good for the corn.
Thank you, guys.
producers.
Yep.
ethanol was,
Yeah.
Joke, ethanol's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
We see more damage to cars from ethanol.
it doesn't pay.
It's stupid.
You don't get as good
You guys
mileage.
are making good money off.
Oh, yeah. All right.
It takes energy to produce it, too much energy to produce it.
Yeah.
You put in, you go find a station that's got non-ethanol gas,
Yeah.
get 10% better fuel mileage. I've done
Well,
it.
the alcohol has, I think, 21,000 BTUs. Gasoline has 34,000. And I think diesel's around 50,000 BTUs.
Yeah.
Your most efficient fuel is diesel fuel.
Yeah.
Whether it's biodiesel or regular diesel doesn't matter. But converting your food into energy makes absolutely 0 sense to me. So,
That was-
just another stupid federal program that.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else, anything? Oh, come on.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion is approved. You could,
You know, I always tell my grandkids, you can't annoy your way into getting people to agree with you.
no, yeah, no way.
Annoy people.
You know, there are diminishing returns.
You know, his points are well taken, but like the biggest one I see is the screening.
Yeah.
Who's to say if it's screened or not? If it just says it will be screened,